Okay, so the recording is has started. How are you guys doing? I believe you wrote some of your sick tests, or is it a midterm? I'm not sure. Firstly, are there any questions or things you'd like me to cover before I share with you? For tonight's class, I just have a quick, I mean, it's going to be not more than half an hour, I don't think. I'll talk through the summary slides, which serves as a recap, highlights version of all of our work that we've covered so far from chapters 1 to 8. And then I will talk about some expectations for the FISA, the final that you'll see on the 22nd of May. So without a further ado, let's get to it. So all of these slides or excerpts, if you want to call them that, are available on the summary slides in Blackboard. It's called Summaries, and it's just a compilation of the last few slides of all of the chapters. And so you'll find them on Blackboard as well as at the end of each of every slideshow that you have. And I just did that as a synopsis, if you want to think of it like that, or also some possible questions that might come up, and you should be able to cover those topics in detail if they do come up. So I'm going to just share my screen, and then you can see what it is that I'm talking about. So as you can see here, I've got chapter 1 open. It's just the first summary. I mean, the first chapter. The summary is one page, and we spoke about the commercial practice as it is a field, the buyer and seller interface. We spoke about the commercial management framework, which is very important, as you guys know. The principal commercial function of an entity, skills and abilities, what are the things that make up commercial management as a profession. I'll speak to more about specifics as it relates to the FISA in a second, but we spoke about some frameworks as it relates to leadership. This is chapter 2, so this is all around leadership, and you can think about everything related to and for the commercial manager or the leadership within there. Some leadership literature. We spoke very briefly about what a good leader is, transformative, etc. Then chapter 3 speaks to strategy, and not to take away from your actual subject on itself, strategy. We touched on a few of those things as it relates strategy, as it relates specific to the commercial management practice or the commercial entity, an engineering company, in other words. All of those things are synonyms of the same thing. Then we spoke about, on number 2, we spoke about strategic agendas, so market sensing, differentiation, if you'll remember, that identifying value, those type of things. And then we should be able to clearly articulate the core value proposition. So differentiation strategies there are around that. Then chapter 4, which is also, let me get to the first one, known as risk, typically just like to risk management or risk in society today. And I want you to think about not only just the definitions of risk, but risk as it relates to how do we mitigate, what kind of frameworks do we have in place? Can we think about to manage, to limit, to reduce risk, to think about how we can combat the unknown events of the future. So a lot of you spoke to this individual behavior in the first test. It's not quite that. That's like the surface level. I want you to go deeper into the structures, risk management structures, and mitigation strategies. Yeah, and then let me just move this. Then we move on to chapter 5. So here it is all about finances, or the financial aspect of what commercial managers need to know about, or the finance thing, aspect of things, management accounting, finance versus those financial management, management accounting, those key differences there. I'm going to reiterate it here at this point again, and I'll say it again when I speak about the FISA. I'm not going to expect you guys to know and memorize any formulas or how to go about things, because from the chapter there's none of that there. We'll speak about return on investment, but it's only as it relates to, okay, this endeavor or this situation must be profitable, and it must be a good financial standing. We speak about like the costs must be under control, those kind of things. I'm not going to expect you to create a cash flow statement or look at a balance sheet and then critically give me the case study. For example, the case study, we did go through that very specific detail, but I did also say, like, okay, here's the quick ratio, and this is typically used to help you with this analysis. I'm not going to cover that like quick ratio and expect you to know all the ratios and what the ratios mean. That was a deep dive on that specific case, so that if you get into a situation where you, as an engineering manager, need to know and understand and go and look at these things, you have some idea as to what the starting point may look like for you. So all I want you to think about is that you have the understanding, the key concepts of what is important to look at a business from a finance perspective. What do commercial managers need to look at, and where is it important to have a good standing, and where do you see that it could be some problems in the future? So performance evaluation there is what I'm speaking to here as well. And then that is it for finance. Chapter 6 is the contractual aspects. So all the aspects as it relates to contract management, and a lot of this is in your projects, so you can recap a lot of your projects, which I have started to mark, and a lot of them are very good. So you don't need to look far. You can just look at your own project for best practice and good things within a contract that you want to see. So here are some requirements. What are the good things to see in a contract? What do you need to see? What are the components of a good contract? What are the bad or not so good? What are the things to watch out for? Disputes, the legal jargon, some of those definitions are important because we're not familiar with them, but only as it relates to speaking about contract issues, not as it relates to, like, how can I say, becoming a lawyer. So you need to be au fait with some of the terminology, but I'm not going to give you any new concepts to go and evaluate. This chapter, specifically chapter 6, speaks about, as it says there, the factors that influence commercial contract practice. Then it's like it provided an overview of a generic contract provisions and procedures. So that's a good thing to know. What's a overview or a guide or framework, which also speaks to our chapter 8, the framework there. And then some of those terminologies you would need to know so that you can make a case or argue within your specific field. Chapter 7, this is best practice, and I took a couple of extra slides here. So, the objective slides, something that you can just use here. It's a quick, easy question as a refresher. So, explain the common causes of project failure, describe the components of internal control, identify and evaluate best practice processes, procedures, and techniques relevant to commercial practice. And then some of them are going to come just now. So like I said, I actually put these slides in just to show you guys. So these are the common causes of project failure. And you can speak to each of these, so you can name them and speak to each of them. And then, so it goes up 1 to 10, and then success failure. And then Prince is the actual best practice approach. So one of them. Managing successful programs, then there's benefits portfolio management. There's also, which is MOP for short, MOV, the P3M3, portfolio program project management and maturity model. Then, management of risk. And again, these are just, as I said, some of the examples from the slides. So I'm not going to go through them. I'm just showing you what typically you can pull out of the slides as a revision for yourself to know, okay, this is what we covered. Management of value, aspects of contract management, the graphs, if you learn the figures, if you learn better in figures. I'm not opposed to marking figures either. So if you sketch something for me, I'm happy to do that. You just got to sketch it and then talk to it or describe it, elaborate on it. And then the last one is chapter 8, the project management framework, which I, for some reason, didn't open, but let me open that now. Okay, so in this framework here, these are snippets. This is the intent phase of the commercial management framework, and it goes along demand and sell side and all of the components there that we spoke about in last week's lecture: strategy formulation, strategy implementation, the review gates, requirements, specs, solution. Then we move into the next phase, which is the deal creation phase, talking about asset procurement or the proposition development. So this is before the award stage, so pre-award stage. Then there's a award stage or phase, and then post-award stage, which speaks to the execution phase. So asset receipt, asset usage, and then termination or disposal of the assets as the final step in the framework. So that is a speed review of the semester. I will just look if there's any questions now or anything in the chat. I wasn't able to look at the chat, but I don't see that there's anything there. So let's get to it. You can whip your pens out. This is the important bit, maybe that you've all been waiting for. The FISA, Final Integrated Summative Assessment. And the final and summative means everything together. So it's 100 marks, as you know. 8 chapters, which means I can roughly ask 12 marks per chapter. And to give you an idea, it is roughly around that amount. So it's not everything in the chapter, but it definitely touches on components of each chapter. So my recommendation is to watch this review, go back to the different chapters, skim through the things. What do you know? What should you touch up on again? Look at the test 1 as an example of how I might ask the questions, and then try to pretend that you're going to answer them again without. So study a little bit or revise, and then try and answer the questions without the textbook. Then mark yourself. That's a good study method to use. So let's talk about it. The important chapters are risk, strategy, contract management, and the chapter 7 and 8, the best practice and life cycle, the life cycle manage. What is it called? What is the chapter called? Let me just get the correct name. Sorry, guys. Life cycle tactics. Also, chapter 8 gives you the whole framework, which touches on all of the components. So it's a good lecture to go rewatch if you haven't already. So there's components of each chapter in there. There's going to be a case study. So I'm just going to tell you straight. It does encapsulate a majority of the marks, but it is structured in a way that if you know it chapter by chapter, there are some words that will guide you to the chapter. So, for example, chapter 1 is in the introduction to commercial management. Chapter 2 is leadership, as we said. So, in the question, I would ask maybe what leadership styles or principles can you identify in this case that are poor? Or what would you recommend as a leader? You're going to take charge of this department. What are the procedures you would implement first? And so your brain needs to think, okay, I'm now in chapter 2, leadership. Okay, what's the best way? What's the procedures? What can I implement? Okay, transformational leadership, Senge's principles. Okay, transactional versus a transformational leader. What are some good practices of a leader? And then note them down. Maybe make reference to a specific example in industry. In maybe you have a case or a leader in the public eye that you can reference, something to that degree. Then there's going to be the part in the case where you must repeat something like, let's use chapter 5. Okay, tell me all the risks, but then critically evaluate these aspects and how can it be improved. So then you look at the case, you look at the risk principles, and you say, okay, this means this, the definition, and then you go and extrapolate it and bring it across, integrate it from your theory to the application side, giving me your perspectives and your analysis thereof. So that is the scope I have for you. Are there any further clarifying questions? Yeah, go ahead, Tendo.
I just want to ask, will the calculations be involved, I think, on the financial side, or
No.
as you said, that was just to give us an understanding of the finances?
Yes, I will. So to give you an idea or tell you straight, I am not going to ask you to calculate the quick ratio, but you do need to understand there are metrics that one could use in finance. Now, I'm not saying that you can't use it in your test to say, oh, this business is financially, it looks a bit shady. I recommend you use the quick ratio to assess. So, just because I don't say, okay, use the quick ratio, doesn't mean you can't, because think of it like a tool. If you got the tool and you've studied it, or you remember it in the time and it kind of links well, then use it. It's not, I mean, you can argue anything. So I don't think that your argument would be poor if you say, if you remember, okay, this is the quick ratio, they use this and that. This would be a good financial review metric or index. So, but there's nothing in there about me asking for all the ratios. No. I think Kelly Lee. Oh, you're clear. Okay. All right, guys. Speak now, forever hold your peace. So just a word on the projects. It is taking me longer than I expected to actually just get everyone's the not the review. What's it called? The individual factor where you like rated each other. So it's slow going on that front. The report marking is actually pretty quick. So I have some next year. I'll try and or when it runs again, I'll try and make it a little bit more efficient for myself when I ask the students to rate each other. Okay, so that's kind of it. I don't want to beat around the bush or hammer home any other points. I think I've made myself fairly clear. I hope you guys have learned at least a few things that you can take into your workplace and be practically relevant. It is, like I said in the beginning of the subject, it is a theory-heavy subject, and I try to make it a bit more practical, memorable with the cases that I provide. But after the FISA, or maybe before, I'll send you guys a little lecture evaluation. The department and the faculty ask that we get reviewed by the students. We ask for feedback. It's also for me to know how and where I can improve for the future students. So that will be coming to you possibly after the FISA. So just if you could complete that for me, that would be amazing. So yeah, it was that was the lecture for today. Short and sweet. And if there's no questions, which I think I don't see any, I'm gonna bid you guys good night and happy studying. All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, I'll see you guys on the 22nd.
See you then.
All
Bye-bye.
right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, sir. Thank you.